Anne, what amazing, wonderful federal subject would you like to talk about today?
Today, we are going to talk about the complicated, complex, confusing topic of Medicare for federal employees / retirees when they turn age 65.
CD Financial, where health meets wealth. Welcome to CD Financial. CD Financial, where health meets wealth. Today's podcast, you got me, Charles Jama, Chuck D, and across from me is Anne Vanderslice Wirtz. She has had over 2 decades distinguished service helping federal employees. Welcome, Anne. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thanks. Well, Charles, don't you have about a decade and a half? Aren't you kind of right behind me?
Anne, you are correct. Closing out my 16th year. Boy, the time flew by. I didn't even know it. I was a young man when I started. I still feel pretty young, but I'm nowhere near as young as I was 16 years ago. Yeah. And it looks like Hawaii's taking care of you too, Anne. You look good. You got some sunshine. Yeah.
Yep. Great weeks on Maui.
Right. And Colorado's pretty nice too. Right. You got your sunny days and cool, if not cold nights. Yeah.
Yes. Right now it's perfect fall weather.
Oh, that's nice. You don't have any fall foliage, do you? Any leaf changes going on?
Great fall foliage. We have aspen trees that turn anywhere from golden to orange to red. So we have beautiful fall foliage.
Oh, that's cool. My honeymoon with my wife, we went to Quebec City and I was surprised they had a bunch of aspens just north of town. And we went on a hike one day and the whole valley there was lit up and all yellow. It was all yellow. You mentioned that. It was all yellow there. It was just beautiful. Well, hey, I'm grateful for where we live. Today, the marine layer came in this morning and it was all down below over the ocean, and it looked like a bunch of cotton balls, and they were creeping up the valley. I took a picture of it, actually, posted it on Facebook. It was so cool. I took my little girl to skating. She does some ice skating once a week, and the valley on the left and the valley on the right, the marine layer was trying to link up. And I said, look at that, Sophia. Look at the right. Look at the left. I go, man, oh man. I go, do you know what a beautiful area of the country you live in? I go, it's just amazing sometimes. It really is.
It really is.
I'm very grateful. I think it's just amazing what the Creator shows us sometimes. So, Anne, what amazing, wonderful federal subject would you like to talk about today?
Today, we are going to talk about the complicated, complex, confusing topic of Medicare for federal employees / retirees when they turn age 65.
Ooh, unless they're still working, then they don't have to even deal with it. I tell them that all the time in training. I said, look, yeah, go ahead.
That's right. But they might choose to take Medicare Part A since it's free, even though they're still working because there's no cost to it. It remains secondary to their FEHB, but there are cases where they at least want to consider it for Part A and then make their Part B decision after they retire.
See, you're already pulling us down in the weeds with that stuff already. When I do the training on this, and by the way, Anne helped me with my slide deck years ago. I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago. And when I teach this all-day instructional training on federal benefits, I am so passionate about everything. We hit Medicare, though, and I am shocked at how much passion the attendees bring. They bring as much passion to the Medicare subject as they do to TSP. It blows my mind. And I'm like, look, we're going to get through Medicare before lunch break. And when we come back, we're not going to get into Medicare anymore. No, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you survived it. Yeah. So, and tell me why is Medicare such a complicated and complex subject for federal employees? Because compared to the average American retiree, it's not so complicated. But why does it get complex with the federal employee?
Well, if I don't have access to federal employee health benefits and I'm that average American who turned 65, I've already retired, I'm going to take Part A, I'm going to take Part B, and I'm going to go buy a supplement because Medicare does not pay for everything. And so I want an additional plan or coverage to help pay for the things that Medicare doesn't pay for. For the federal employee, the confusion starts because they are part of the only group health coverage in the country that allows them to opt out of Medicare. They do not have to take it in order to keep their federal employee health benefits intact. So, right off the bat, they have to make a decision. They have to decide, am I going to pair my FEHB with Medicare Part B, or am I going to simply stay with FEHB?
Yeah. Already, I want to start. I'm thinking about the attendees and listeners, and they might don't shut down. Don't shut down on this. Basically, what she said was, if you're not a Fed, you don't have FEHB in retirement, your federal health insurance, because you're not a Fed. And so, if you're not a Fed, then Medicare Part B is your answer. In fact, if you're listening and you're retired military or reservist, you already know too. TRICARE is your answer, and you're going to be forced into Medicare Part B as well at age 65, even while you're working. But for a federal employee, you've got a choice because if you keep your FEHB, which almost all federal employees do, I don't think I've met any that, well, we'll talk about that in a minute, Ann, but most all federal employees, they keep their FEHB into retirement and they can do what's called suspending. But tell us, Ann, what word do we never use?
We never want to cancel our valuable federal employee health benefits because that means I can't ever get back in. This is if you're retired.
That's
I don't
right.
ever want to cancel them. I want to suspend them. So, under the right circumstances, during open season, I could come back and pick up that coverage if I needed to in the future.
There you go. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So I'm a Fed. I've got FEHB. Why do I
We wish.
need, what's that?
We wish.
Yeah, that's right. We wish. I'm sorry. Let me illustrate. Neither one of us were federal employees, but let's suppose an illustrative language that I'm a federal retiree. I have FEHB. And do I need to have Medicare?
Well, here are the pros and cons. You're going to take Part A because it's free.
Yes.
Every pay period, you had a contribution deducted 1.65% from your paycheck. That means that when you get to age 65 and Medicare age, Medicare Part A, hospitalization only, is free. So I've already paid for it. Of course, I'm going to take it. Medicare Part B covers everything else except prescription drugs. And so if I pair Medicare Part B with my FEHB, FEHB becomes my supplement. Medicare is the primary payer. They pay first. Whatever they don't pay, my federal employee health benefits steps in and they will waive your copays, waive your deductibles, and they pay the difference. You have no out of pocket expenses after you pay for that Medicare Part B. So pairing them together, you might be thinking, all right, that seems like a pretty good deal. I might take that. But of course, there's always more information you might need. And the flip side of that coin is if Medicare is the primary payer, what kind of provider do you need to go to?
If Medicare is a primary payer, then what kind of provider do you need to go to? Tell us.
You have to go to a provider who accepts Medicare. What if my provider doesn't take Medicare?
Is there a lot of that out there? Providers that just won't take Medicare Part B?
It depends on where you are located. There are areas of this country where doctors have just determined it's not financially beneficial to take Medicare
Wow.
patients
How about that?
and they don't take Medicare. But if you live likely in California, Arizona, Florida, places where there are a lot of retirees, in all likelihood they will take Medicare, but it may limit your access to the provider you want. And so you have to decide what's more important to you. That, hey, I have a fixed cost for my health care in retirement. That's appealing. or I want a choice of the providers that I go to.
Okay. Before you go too far, I had a couple questions, and now they're sliding out of there. It was previously, I've noticed only in the last few years that more and more federal retirees are choosing to have Medicare. They're choosing to actually elect it, the Medicare Part B. They didn't do that so much, let's say, especially pre-COVID. And the majority of retirees would say, "I'm good. I'm just going to have my FEHB." What do you think is the impetus for them selecting both and paying? And I might add paying for both as well.
Right. Well, if we think about the insurance companies, the FEHB carriers, do you think that they want all federal employees to enroll in Medicare so they get help paying for those
Sure, they
costs?
do. They want to get them off
Of
their back, right?
course.
Yeah.
Right. So, really, behind closed doors, they can't believe anyone ever agreed to allow federal employees to opt out of Medicare. And so, about 7 years ago in 2017, insurers started giving their participants an incentive. They started dangling this rebate in front of them and saying, "Hey, if you'll sign up for Medicare Part B, we'll give you a little financial incentive to do that." Blue Cross Blue Shield Basic, as an example, will give you $800 a year per person for being enrolled in Medicare Part B. So now that effectively lowers my Part B premium.
And as we record, that's still the case.
That's still the case.
How about that? So BCBS will give you $800, and if the running cost right now as we record is about 172, 173 bucks for Medicare, they'll give you $800. What is that, Ann? That's 70 times 10 is 700. It's a little bit less than that. It's about 65 bucks. So they're kind of giving you 35, 40% of the Medicare Part B.
It kind of drops their premium to about $100 for Medicare when we take it over the whole year.
Huh. Okay.
Take them up.
So what if I keep my FEHB and I decide I don't want to get Medicare Part B? Don't everybody tells you, "Oh no, you can't do that. There's going to be all kinds of penalties." Tell us about that, Ann.
Well, the penalty is only if I ever decide I do want Medicare Part B in the future. And so as long as I have the ability to stay in my FEHB, I don't ever want Medicare, there's no penalty. But if I get 10 years down the road and I go, "Oh my gosh, I have this chronic condition and I wish I could pair Medicare with my FEHB," now for every year that I should have been enrolled in Medicare, age 65 on, but I wasn't, I pay a 10% penalty on top of that $174 a month because I didn't enroll. So now I've effectively doubled that Medicare premium, and that penalty is permanent. It's for the rest of my life as long as I stay in Medicare.
Wait, so the penalty is you don't have to back pay the Medicare premiums, but you have to pay a 10% penalty for let's say if it was a decade that you ignored Medicare Part B premiums, they're going to go back and calculate what the premiums were annually for each year and multiply by 10%. Is that right?
Well, no. So you're going to pay the penalty is actually based on the year you should have been covered. So if we're using this year as an example, 174.80 is the premium. 10% of that would be $17 a year, right?
Right on.
And if I went 10 years without enrolling, whatever the new premium is 10 years from now, we're going to add $170 to that.
Okay. So, okay. All right. I got you now. Huh. So that is why the federal retiree is told you are going to have to pay a penalty if you don't enroll. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. And in theory, if they elect it in the future, then they might be right. They might have to pay a penalty, but yeah.
Only if they decide they want it later. And we never like that word penalty, right? Oh, there's a penalty. I don't want to pay a penalty. But if I went 10 years without paying a premium, I've saved quite a lot of money.
I was going to point that out too.
Maybe the penalty isn't that big a deal to me.
Yeah, maybe if you're chronically ill or even critically, you might not even live that much longer, and you'd be like, "No, I did. I did myself one solid in my family." Yeah, it might have been a good move. So, and let's say because I get this all the time. People will come up to me and they'll say, "Charles, I'm 67 and I don't have Medicare Part B," but they're in training, and that means they're still working, and they're concerned. They said, "Is there going to be a penalty?"
As long as the employee is covered by group health care, they do not have to make their Medicare decision until they're retired. So they get to push that decision down the road. And even better, if their spouse is covered under their plan, their spouse can delay that decision as well. So let's give the example. I knew a couple, and the wife was older than the husband. She turned 65 first. So the husband's 62, she's 65. She's on his plan. She said, I'm getting all this Medicare supplement information, all these questions in the mail. She could get rid of all of it because her spouse is still working and she's on his plan. She gets to delay her decision until up to 8 months after he retires.
I was going to ask you that. Up to 8 months, they can make their election. So they don't have to wait for Medicare open season. They can just go ahead within 8 months of the retirement date and go ahead and elect Medicare.
That's right. It's called a special enrollment period.
Special enrollment period. Thank you for that language too. That's awesome. Okay, good. So let's say I'm 70 years old. I'm working for the Fed. Others are concerned. My spouse is concerned that I haven't gotten Medicare Part B. Guess what? I don't have to until 8 months after I officially retire, and it doesn't affect my wife, my husband, any of that, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Ann, do those same rules apply for somebody in private industry that works for a company as long as they're working and they're covered under their own company's health insurance? Is that the same rule?
So the rule reads a little differently. You have to be enrolled in a company sponsored plan and it has to have a certain number of employees. But generally speaking, the answer is yes, that anyone who is working and covered under group health insurance can delay their Medicare decision, even if they're working past age 65.
How about that? Okay, I got another question for you, Ann. Because as you know, sometimes the premium is actually less money for the FEHB if a husband and wife have actually paying the premiums themselves. So, because I have multiple families that I've helped where both spouses work for the federal government. And instead of getting a family plan, they get single plan. Now, let's say that the Fed has a single plan and the spouse has chosen not to have the FEHB health insurance. And the spouse has had it, it works for the Fed for 5 years. They go into retirement. Can the spouse now, the private industry spouse, get on FEHB?
Yes, during open season. And likely the recommendation would be during open season for FEHB, the year prior to when the employee is going to retire, they'd want to add that spouse.
The year prior to when the employee is going to retire. What if they don't do it the year prior?
So you're leaving just a little bit of risk there on the table, and it's risk you can easily control. So the spouse retires in June, and they
Which
do what they're
spouse?
supposed
The federal spouse?
federal spouse
Got it.
retires in June, and they do what they're supposed to do. They elect the survivor benefit for their non-federal employee spouse, and they wait until the following open season to try to add their spouse. What if the federal retiree dies in that little gap, in that little window?
Okay. I get it now. Right. I was more concerned about the survivor benefit that they have to buy at least 25%, but now you're bringing up another subject. They were never covered. Yeah.
And so then they can't get into the health insurance. And so that's why I like them to have it
A year prior.
before the federal employee retires. It could have been a great deal for the non-Fed spouse in the private sector, but we just want to get them on that plan in case the unfortunate happens.
Okay. And if I'm 65 and working at the Fed, I'm going to go ahead and just elect, and I'm still working, I'm going to go ahead and elect Medicare Part A because it's free, correct?
Right.
Okay, good. Let me recap. Medicare Part A was, you said it, but it was in between the lines. Medicare Part A is for hospitalization. Medicare Part B pays the doctors. Medicare Part D is prescription drug plan. How we
Correct.
do. Yes, and let's not even talk about Medicare Part C. But if you're the spouse of a federal employee or you're private industry and listening, Medicare Part C, tell us what that is, Ann. Is that everything packaged together?
It's a plan called Medicare Advantage, or you can think of it as a Medicare HMO. And in the private sector, many Medicare Advantage plans don't have a premium, but they have higher copays and higher deductibles. And for a Medicare Advantage plan, you must be enrolled in Medicare Part B and pay that Medicare premium in order to have access to Medicare Part C.
Okay, copy that. Okay, great. And federal employees, do they have to elect Medicare Part B in review?
They're going to, if they're still working at 65, they're going to wait for that special enrollment period up to 8 months after they retire. If they're already retired, they're going to have a 7-month window to enroll in Medicare around their 65th birthday. 3 months before their birthday, month of their birthday, 3 months after their birthday, they may enroll in Medicare if they choose to. No penalty, Part A and B.
If they choose to. I think you answered my question right there at the end. If they choose to, as a federal retiree, you don't have to take Medicare Part B. But if in the future you decide to enroll in a Medicare Part B and, of course, keep your FEHB, then you'll have to pay that 10% penalty. Or did I say that right? Yes. Okay, good. Good. Okay. Well, that wraps up Medicare, clear as mud. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Listen, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. We're here for all federal families, whether working or retired. That is what our firm and what I do every day, 5 days a week. We serve federal employees and their family members, and we love it and we look forward to it. And we are resident authorities on these topics. So, Ann, anything else you'd like to say about the subject?
No, I think that covers it. And if it felt overwhelming, just know that you do have that window to enroll and to investigate it for you and what makes the most sense for you and your spouse if you're married.
Oh, I'm glad you added that reassurance. Yeah, I mean it. Yeah, don't worry, don't fret over it. Reach out to us. You have us as a big resource here. You can email info@cdfinancial.org or you can call us. And you can subscribe, or message us through there. And as you know, CD Financial is where health meets wealth. So do you have a health tip for us today?
I do have a health tip for you, and I think this one is easy. Some people do not find it as easy, but it's about hydration and it's about how much water you drink every day. And you'll see different recommendations. The one that I go by is I try to drink half of my body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 150, you might try to drink 75 ounces of water per day, and you start doing how many 8-ounce glasses
Wow,
is that
that
gonna
seems.
drink?
Wait, let me work that out, Ann. That seems like a lot. If I'm going to do half my body weight and I'm 172, then I'm at, 85, 86 ounces. I drink two of those. Where's my guy? I drink two of those little black Yeti things. They're probably 32 ounces. So that's 64 ounces, plus two 12-ounces in the morning with lemon water, two 10-ounce glasses. So I've got 84 ounces. Huh, that's funny. I guess I'm doing it all. I am doing it because I also drink a little bit of apple cider vinegar, a capful with like 2 or 3 ounces of water. So I'm nailing almost exactly my body, half of my body weight. Wow. How about that?
And If you're not currently doing it, you don't have to start at half your body weight right off the bat. Just try to drink as much as you can, be mindful about it, and then just keep kind of increasing it by a few ounces a week.
You know what I do to get into a rhythm? I actually set a timer. Like I'll say, I don't want to tell her right now because she's listening. Hey, Siri. I'll say, set timer 1 hour, right? Or you could say, hey, Alexa, set timer 1 hour. And then every time it goes off, just drink like, you don't have to drink a whole glass. Maybe drink like 8 ounces, 6 ounces. And for me, I have to. I start to feel parched now that I'm used to it. We've had other health tips about how to get your water in the right shape, right? You might be using a pH filter. My wife bought a copper tank to hold the water. Apparently copper is really good. It's no mistake that originally homes were piped with copper pipes for water, and now they're using PEX. You can kick it back old school to copper pipes, or you can keep copper pipes if you're redoing a house, and might be good for you. How about that?
Yeah, and expensive.
That's right. Yeah. Well, if you're going to repipe with copper, you're right. Yeah, but I mean, I would argue it would be less expensive if you keep your health in good shape, right? Yeah. Okay. That is fantastic about Medicare and what we know about it. Thank you for joining us. I'm Charles Jama. You know, I use the moniker Chuck D. That's Ann Vanderslice Warts. Collectively, we have nearly 4 decades of experience helping federal employees. How about that, Ann? Yeah. Oh, click on the links for your resources too. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with anybody that you think would benefit. Okay, Ann, we'll see you again soon. CD Financial, where health meets wealth.